I am Greta Carter. I am a taxpayer, a home buyer, a cannabis entrepreneur, a medicated person in the evenings with cannabis, and I am a Republican that just recently started my journey 6 years ago from Jacksonville, Florida, to understand cannabis. So, hey, hopefully, in some of that I shared with you, perhaps you can relate to some of what I'm going to talk about. When I heard Adam speak just before me, there would seem to be a significant amount of interest in the application process. And I uh, don't know if you're interested in delving into that. I have so much I can share with you when it comes to cannabis activism and the process of bringing good rules to communities that I can pretty much keep you here for a few days, but I don't think we want to do that. So I'll start just a little bit about the journey, and then you guys kind of lead me on what you want to talk about. Does that sound okay? Okay. So part of what this is kind of narrow to the stage, so I don't want to be too dramatic and end up falling. I'm going to kind of step back. But I started in Jacksonville 6 years ago researching cannabis, and I looked at that as an alternative because the real estate market just devastated my family. And my son asked me to look into a little bit more. And I used to go out to California, the birthplace of medical cannabis, right? And I would grab the magazines that I could get, and I would hide them when I would come back on the planes because God forbid anybody would look at me and think I was in the pot business, right? And it's funny because now when I look back on that, now I wear it proud, and I just challenge anybody to talk to me about cannabis that they're in opposition for it. And what really got me there was the journey through education and understanding what's propaganda and what's real. And it's difficult because of it being such an underground culture and economy that we can't discern which are the facts and which are just really anecdotal. I started the Training Institute. It's really what I hope to be a legacy project for me. It's not where I make my money. It is a and when if you get a chance to look online and you'll see the credentials, we're on the path to accreditation, and we have the only state sanctioned course that's required in Washington, D.C. for people who want to be in the cannabis industry. But I won't really want to talk about that, except that it's education. And that's really what I'm here about, and that's what I applaud Pete and Tom for doing, is that they're trying to educate. I will also tell you, though, in the process of doing that legacy project, okay, now where would that be? Okay, the road, whoops, did I go back? Okay, I wanted to go back to, okay, I'm sorry. The road to regulation and what works and what doesn't work. There's different opinions of how people approach the licensing process, and I will tell you what's worked for me. I own 5 licenses, and we didn't talk about Washington with the last speaker with Adam, but I'm very proud to be part of Washington. I operated business underneath the medical cannabis laws in Washington. It was a dispensary. It got shut down by the federal government. Then I decided to really get engaged politically and trying to bring better rules around and protecting patients, and that really started my journey down political activism. And in order to do that then and have a sense of safety, I actually stepped back for a couple years of doing anything directly with cannabis, and I engaged in ancillary businesses, which I think some of you all are considering as well. It's a way to be part of the business, but not be as directly at risk as what you are when you're actually handling the plant itself. And I still own a small chain of medical clinics where our doctors will consider cannabis as an option. That's underneath medical laws. But then what I also did is I applied for, and it was a very rigorous process, to apply for licenses to grow cannabis in Washington underneath our adult use or recreational use laws, and I won 5 of those. And we are currently have an outdoor grow about an hour and a half outside of Seattle, where we're growing 3,500 pounds of cannabis a year. Pretty cool, huh? 3,500 pounds. It's kind of scary because there's still that federal thing that says you got more than 1,000 plants, it's 10 years mandatory prison. It's like, oh God, I wouldn't do good with that. So that, and then I also applied for licenses in Nevada, and my partners and I, we won the first round in Clark County. So we have 3 licenses there in Las Vegas that are going to the state level, and I went through the process of the 3 licenses in Reno, and looking for that to get to the state too. I came out here a week ago, and really the journey that I recommend to all people that are looking at applications is from my perspective and what has worked. And that's that the application has to be based on rules that are good for not only business, but for the patients. And if we don't start engaged in the fundamental pieces of making sure those are good rules, it doesn't pencil out, not for the patients, and it doesn't pencil out for us. The concern I have is similar to what Adam had described, is that each state is attempting to build on the previous state's rules in order to be better and smarter. Like prohibition, like banking, other highly regulated industries, what we're going to see is that this is going to be generational before we get this right. So if you are interested in entering into the industry, the first thing I would share with you is to just be cognizant of that and know that you're going to be subjected to a lot of change. And there's going to be a lot of rules that maybe aren't the smartest rules, but we just march to them. There's some of the things I'm doing in Washington, I actually had to hire extra people just in order to comply with the compliance that the state is requiring, and some of the stuff is just stupid. And the state knows it, but you know what? I want to be a good player. Well, you know, first I want to say I love our lawmakers because they're trying to do something really new and innovative. So I work really hard to get along with them. But I will tell you a rule that they've said to myself that's stupid is like name badges. Everybody on the property has to have a name badge, or I get a $250 ticket the first time, and then it escalates after. Well, there's, 10 of us working on the property. We all know each other. Why do we have to have name badges? But that name badge falls off or something like that, they can give me a ticket. The price for the applications process is significant, as pretty significant, and it's getting more expensive, and it has to do with the competition being so tough. I met this week with lawmakers, and I met with investors this week. I'm working on putting a team here too, if the rules come together right. But my first motivation was to really talk to lawmakers and politicians about where they think things are going. And I'm not a lobbyist. I'm not a political person, other than when I started six years ago. And what I learned through that process is that there was never a politician's door that I knocked on that didn't welcome me in and listen to what I had to say. Professional lobbyists, really important, but they work for us. So remember, the politicians do. I know I found it intimidating because it's like, damn, these guys are the people that won the biggest popularity contest ever. They all look like movie stars, and they're all going to be smarter than me. I walked in there, and it's like they welcomed me so graciously, and I've established those relationships in every county that I've gone into. I absolutely agree that when you decide on a location of where you want to go, it's building that community spirit with the people that are around you. I'll give you an example of that. In our garden it's a farm, it's 20 acres outside of Seattle. We're in a county where a lot of counties called moratoriums, and you can expect that may happen here too, where counties are empowered to say they don't want to zone and they don't want to allow cannabis businesses into their area. When that happens, it puts a burden on the rest of the state because there's going to be magnets of where it is allowed, and it affects patients, their safe access to it. So that's one of the things we gotta keep on lobbying for, and making sure that we listen to what the needs are of the community. One of those things are they need to have some funding for the extra patrol cars or for the extra processes that are going to come with regulation. Because some of the moratoriums get called because they don't get that funding. So when you're talking to your community, you know, it goes up again, you go up to the state people and saying, make sure when these rules come in, something falls back down to the county. It was a miss that we had in Washington. And so anyway, when you go back to the community, I started right in the beginning, and it's kind of scary when you go up there and you say, this is what I'm going to do. At least it was for me. I mean, 20 years as a banker. It was, I'm Republican. I mean, my mom, 95-year-old mom, is sitting in South Dakota, and she sees me on CNN, and she calls me up, and she says, honey, you're not doing something with that POT, are you? And I was like, oh my God, you know, it's just you don't realize your family members that may not accept what you're doing and stuff too. And it's like I told her, you know I am. And it's like, oh, and I'm surrounded by lawyers and doctors and accountants and really great people. So she'd be really proud of what I'm doing. But anyway, so when you go back and you talk to the county and you talk to them about it, their first reaction to me consistently is they so appreciate that you're coming and talking to them. I had a partner on my team, and sometimes I want to kill him, but he's a younger man that just would prefer to maybe do things like, let's ask for, what is that saying where you say, let's ask for forgiveness, or ask for permission or forgiveness first, however it goes. But he doesn't want to ask for permission first. He wants to ask for forgiveness later. And it's like, that's not what you want to be doing. You want to be out front. You want to get out of that green closet. You want to tell them what you're doing and that you're there to help. We went out and met our neighbors, and we offered jobs to our neighbors. I offered some pasture ground to one of the neighbors, and these are all neighbors, you know, that were retired in an agricultural community. They all love us. We added value to their community. Well, fast forward, this same county is talking about pulling a moratorium because there was a team of folks that were coming in to build a 50,000 square foot cultivation center in an area that was zoned appropriately in the county. Same thing that I was doing, only they approached it a lot different. We got a group of hate people out there now trying to shut us down and trying to pull back that approval that the county had. They're putting a whole bunch of pressure on the county commissioners. And guess what? All it takes is one angry neighbor to be fed up with the state, fed up with the county rules, to call the feds. DEA would love to get that call. They'd love to have an invitation to come in. So we're okay in the county because of what we did, but they may shut it down for any other new business coming in. Lessons learned there for you guys is it's about community building. These are not distractions. These are things that you need to be involved in right up front if you want to find success. What else can I tell you? This isn't. It's just kind of showing our companies. I have some fabulous people that work for me. There's about 40 people. I sure don't do that all by myself. That was showing that we are in Nevada, both in Las Vegas, and we hope to be anyway, in Las Vegas and in Sparks. So really, if you go after a good application process, to me, means that you're engaging yourself politically. I can't stress this enough. We aren't a new industry yet. We're still a movement. And the reason we're still a movement is because we got that federal conflict out there. Could that get signed tomorrow? Absolutely. The president could stroke his pen and it become deregulated. As business people, what we have to do is manage those risks. If we start investing our millions of dollars, what does deregulation really mean to us? First off, if it was to know that there's several steps of deregulation, right? He could lessen it from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 2 to a Schedule 3. I won't get into all of that detail, but each one of those different schedules brings back different implications to what will happen to cannabis when that occurs. He could just strike the whole thing and just say it's deregulated. Deregulated would mean, okay, if even big pharma was going to look at coming in, you guys know, have a sense. I'm not a doctor, but you definitely know that there is a long period of FDA testing that has to do anything before big pharma can offer it. And then big tobacco, I think that's probably excuse me, maybe one of the more threats that I'm concerned about, but that will take some time too for them to get in. So we look as business people to how do we manage those risks. If we're successful at having a winning application, we have the challenges of the 280E tax code. That's a significant issue for us to know about. The federal government has attacked our industry now in a more sophisticated manner. They still do the raids. You see them happening in LA. We still have people that are going to prison for this little plant. So our work's not done on that, but for those of us that they are leaving alone, they bring in a more submissive approach. It's a very passive-aggressive approach, and one is the IRS. So if you're in business for a year, and I think that Tom, if I remember right, in one of your earlier sessions, you had someone out here talking about the 280E tax code's implications. But you need to set your business up to have a strategy that will win that. And that, so the 280E tax code's one of your challenges. The other challenge is, of course, the banking laws. Even though the banks have come out and said that we are going to have they gave us some guidelines. The bankers that I've talked to indicate that they're still so difficult that many of them are fearful of implementing them. I think we have 105 banks that they're proudly saying will accept cannabis money now, but it's funny because they won't tell us which banks they are. So we're still running around trying to find banks. They even shut down my little bank for the Cannabis Training Institute. I have nothing to do with the plant, but because they looked that up and saw the word cannabis, they shut down my online banking. I mean, how crazy is that? That's like censorship, right? So anyway, I'm fighting that. But then, okay, so federal, the 280E tax code, the banking challenge, and then there's that other thing about it still being that controlled substance and what the feds really could do for us. So we need to keep working with lobbyists, and we need to keep moving our movement along until it is an industry. But I would find any business plan being grossly irresponsible if it didn't carry a line item on its budget that was for government relations work. We can't expect, is there money to be made in this industry? I'm here to tell you, yes, there absolutely is, but it's not as great as everybody thinks it is, where you're gonna fall all over tons of stupid cash, because we have so many challenges in front of us. And then as a businesswoman, which is really my strength, is I have concerns each time regulations get more intense and more intense, the cost of running that business goes higher and higher. I will tell you that when I first came to Seattle, just to give you a quick snapshot, if you had a jar of weed in a door underneath the medical laws, you could open up and make a few $100,000 a year. Then regulation comes in. And for me to open up my garden, that regulations, my camera system alone, I had forecasted like 6,000, 7,000 for the security camera, only to find out it was going to cost me 52,000. So those little surprises keep popping up, and I think we have just a little less than $1 million in our outdoor grow now. But you do the quick math on that. We should be producing around 450,000 a month gross on that, based on what the current prices are for pounds. That's not net, that's gross. Okay, so then we go from that, now you go into Nevada. We had in our application alone, just to get our application in, we know, you know what, I'm gonna backtrack that. I'm not gonna say we did, but there are people we know that spent close to $700,000 to get their application in. The competition's so high, and they're doing that. Adam's absolutely right. They're doing it by hiring marketing people. They're doing it by hiring lawyers. They're hiring people like myself that help you write applications, but then they expect you to have a building, right? And you got to sign the lease for that building and whatever that deposit is. And then, you know, be wary, you guys. I had my real estate broker's license when I was in Florida, and I saw firsthand, I experienced it, that people who are having real estate that's in that sweet spot being that 1,000-foot that the feds want you to be in, then whatever your local county and community wants you to be in, and then you'd like it to be in a spot that actually has a road in front of it and a parking for your customers or your patients. I've seen firsthand somebody ask for $35,000 in a bag of cash in order to sign a lease with a dispensary that wanted to use that property. Then 6 months later, somebody came on and offered him a whole option to just buy it straight out, even before the guy had a license, and he bounced that guy out of that deal totally. It gets really nasty when it comes to the real estate stuff. There's a lot of people eager to jump in, and I won't say it's always the smartest business people that are getting in, because again, sometimes it just doesn't pencil out. So you gotta do your math when it comes to that regard. I don't know what my time is like, but I don't know if anybody has any questions. Wanted to just share with you my experience. I'm sorry I do have to leave to catch the plane back. I've been here all week, so I'll be heading out. Just those three. Just those three. I went for a producer, a processor, a cultivation, a processor, and a retail. I did the three in Vegas, and then we put three into Sparks, which is the sister city for Reno. Yeah, it's tough, it's brutal, it's a lot of work. I have 2 attorneys that work for me on my team and a MBA, and they lead a team of other researchers in order to put the documents together. We didn't quite have a U-Haul take our applications up, but I think our total pages for the 3 were somewhere around 1,200 pages. It's intense, and they want manuals on everything. And then I'll tell you, some people who have lost the application was simply because they didn't have a wet signature on one of the applications. That was in Washington. The bureaucrats that come through, they aren't maybe cannabis people or PhDs. They've been trained to just look for things. Bureaucrats, you know, that the personality type, look for things that can push you out of the process. So it's that attention, incredibly intense attention to detail. One guy that lost an application in Washington was because he did not put on his background check that when he was 14 years old, he had an indecent exposure because he had public urination at a concert when he was 14. So he lost his spot for his license because he didn't disclose it. He didn't think. He was 38 now and in really good standing, but that's how deep they look at your background. So look at all your partners, DUIs, any of those felonies. Just know that the states go really deep on all that. Another application got kicked out because they included summary of their taxes instead of the detail that was being asked for the taxes. It's just, so it doesn't hurt, and it's not, I'm not up here trying to hawk my businesses, but like Adam, it doesn't hurt to go with some of the folks that have had success with the winning licenses, because we've seen the battle scars, and we know what they're looking for. Not to mention that we built most of those manuals, the community outreach, the security, and as long as there's a winning formula there. Excuse me, the other thing I want to say that kind of breaks my heart in Florida that I see happening is that there are so many people popping up saying that they're cannabis experts. Come pay me $300, come pay for this, and then, oh, by the way, I'll consult for $500 more. I mean, I'm talking about me, but I'm seeing and hearing about that. It tells you how exciting it is that people want to be in this industry, but it also tells you that there's snake oil salesmen out there too. So you have to be aware of that, and when you look at businesses that are looking for your money, the thing I say is do the research on the internet. If you can't find anything that they've done work in the past and who they are, I wouldn't go. I wouldn't spend my money on them. Any other questions?
I think we have one more over here.
I don't have 5 dispensaries. I have 5 licenses to grow and process. So that's converting the plant in. But good question. His question was, what am I doing with all of that? And no, it's 150 strains is what we offer. Yeah. Yeah, it's 150 strains, and we also have a relationship with a seed company for breeding. Yeah. No, I think her question about, are we worried about the competition and the big business coming in? And my response to that would be, we welcome competition, I like in our industry, the cannabis industry, really similar to wines and vineyards. We are the product of the dirt, the sun, the care that's given. Everybody can grow grapes in their backyard, but not everybody's going to make a fine Pinot. And some of those smaller vineyards that do just a fabulous job are the ones that you get excited about. Not everybody's going to be the Mondavi, but I believe that there's room for everybody. And what I really want to see is that ethical people and people of integrity get into this industry, and that they don't make the threshold so high that it's all about the money. Then we've made a mistake. And I also want to say to all you women, this has been a male-dominated industry. Water's fine. Come on in. There's a lot of room for the skill sets that women bring to the table.